Hello, welcome to another edition of Power Wheel. This week on the program, the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, says the federal government will soon involve more Nigerians in manufacturing meters. Shouts of joy greet the successful completion and commissioning of a 60 MVA transformer at Kefi Substation, Nasarawa State, North Central Nigeria. Federal government repairs and restores Western gas pipeline that supplies about 6 power generation companies after being gutted by fire. Plus, interview with stakeholders in the power sector. These and more to spice up your time with us on the program. I am Omelogo Nadi. Let's begin this episode of the program with a look at events that shaped Nigeria's power transmission process. This is a Power News segment. The federal government has repaired and restored the Western gas pipeline that supplies about 6 power generation companies, GENCOs, with a capacity to produce 3,100 megawatts. Please take a listen.
The pipeline was burnt a week earlier at Okada Axis in Edo State. It caused the shutdown of 6 plants across the Western Axis, thereby reducing the quantum of power generated to the national grid on onward transmission and distribution. The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, during the period had to deploy extra resources and attention to manage the fluctuating transmission grid that arose from the reduced generation. The management, in a statement, said despite the significant drop in generation, TCN ensured that power was still supplied to the Western Axis, but at a reduced level to avert further nationwide disruption. The Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, however, announced the completion of repairs and subsequent restoration of gas to the GENCOs at the 23rd Power Sector meeting held recently in Lafia, the Nasarawa State capital.
After the setback, I am happy to inform you and by extension Nigerians that as at last night, the damaged pipeline repairs have been completed. What remains is pressurizing and testing to restore supply to the generation companies. And I'm told by this morning that some of the power plants in Olorunshogo and Egbe have started receiving gas. So in the next few days, we expect that one by one, all the stakeholders who are involved, the GENCOs, TCN, and the DSTV will work to restore supply of power back to the levels that they were before the pipeline damage, so that we can continue our journey of incremental power.
The power sector in December 2017 achieved over 5,222 megawatts transmission, which was the highest ever in the history of Nigeria, shortly before the incidents occurred in January 2018.
These milestones are represented by increase in generated power, which climbed to 7,000 megawatts, increase in transmission capacity, which has reached and exceeded 7,000 megawatts, and peak distribution that is now averaging about 5,000 megawatts, at least in the last 3 months of the year. I'd like to thank all of you, singularly and collectively, for your contributions towards these milestones. And I think that if you give yourselves a round of applause, it is not undeserving. I think everybody has played one role or the other. And I thank you especially on behalf of Nigerians, because the feedback I get from them is that you are saving them money, and you are changing their lives for the better.
Confirming this, the minister said, in the last 3 months, we have increased the supply of power in the dry weather and people's experience with power was better. We must thank the Ministry of Petroleum Resources for the increase in gas supply.
Residents in Kefi town in Nasarawa State last Monday went wild with jubilation after the Transmission Company of Nigeria TCN completed and commissioned a 60 MVA transformer at the existing Kefi substation to improve electricity across over 10 other towns. That report is up next.
The Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, who officiated the commissioning, lauded TCN for the speedy achievements, saying the reward for doing well is more work.
Let me acknowledge the Managing Director of TCN, who has provided very, very good leadership for TCN since the exit of Manitoba. This is an example really of what the Nigerian capacity is all about. All of the staff, from Engineer Adeumi down to the very last man, I thank you very much for your hard work, but there is still more work ahead. The only reward you will get for hard work is more work, and the appreciation by the citizens of Nigeria. Let me thank the Permanent Secretary for the leadership that he has provided, and the 2 ministers of state who are my partners who are not here. Our development partners, the World Bank, our contractor, MBH Power, all of the staff of the companies who have delivered this project, on behalf of the communities that will be served by this project, I thank you very, very much.
He told the firm to prepare for more work to give Nigerians power, adding that the new transformer will improve supply across 10 communities.
If you know Garaku, if you know Laminga, if you know Toto, if you know Loko, if you know Gunduma, if you know Fanda, these are the communities that will be served by this project. And we expect that you will see improved power supply in the course of the next few days and weeks as all of the capacities here are rolled out.
The Interim Management Director of TCN, Mr. Usman Gur Mohammed, says the project was a 200% increase in the transmission capacity of the existing 30 MVA substation. Mr. Mohammed says with 90 MVA capacity, efficient electricity being allocated to the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company from the national grid will be transmitted seamlessly, and that it will translate to more hours of power supply for residents. The IMD also notes that the project is supported by the World Bank under the Nigeria Electricity and Gas Improvement Project, NEGIP.
Honorable Minister, sir, the Transmission Rehabilitation and Expansion Program, which you strongly supported, seeks to stabilize, expand, and provide needed flexibility to the discourse for them to effectively supply their customers.
The TCN boards announced that several projects are being commissioned till March this year to speedily improve power supply. Under Mr. Mohammed, TCN now records over 7,000 megawatts of wheeling capacity, a feat he attributed to concerted efforts of his team members. This means TCN can effectively wheel over 7,000 megawatts power from the generation companies, GENCOs.
As part of the strategy of transmission expansion and rehabilitation program, NEGIP was implemented in 8 years, sir. In 8 years, that is the time I came in February. It was 8 years, and the implementation, the disbursement rate was only 50%. But Honorable Minister, I'm happy to tell you that from February to date, from February to November last year, we added 30%. Implementation improved by 30%.
The Emir of Kefi, Dr. Shehu Usman Yamusa III was grateful to the minister and the TCN IMD for the efforts at improving electricity supply in Kefi and the entire state. While he assured of the security of the facility following improvements in power supply, the emir also announced that his subjects have stepped up electricity bill payments.
We would like to behave like on your trees, but meanwhile let me start by just calling you to Kefi. This development will increase the power in Kefi, and most of our transformers are old, and we need more transformers if it is possible. To cut the time, then you say you're welcome to Kefi, and we appreciate you, and we appreciate the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and finally I want to assure you you will see change on the payment of NEPA.
This is to commemorate the official commissioning of the 1x60 MVA 132/33 kVA power transformer Kefi transmission substation, Kefi National Estate, by the Honorable Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola's son, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, on Monday, 8th January 2018, EPC contractor, MBH Power Limited. I did that on behalf of the Honorable Minister.
The interim managing director, IMD, of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, Mr. Usman Mohammed, says the federal government has completed negotiation with the World Bank for $486 million loan to improve transmission infrastructure under the Nigeria Electricity Transmission Project, NETAP, last December. Here's the story.
Mr. Mohammed, who spoke at the commissioning of the 60 MVA transformer in Kefi last week, says the company is bent on solving a fresh challenge of reconducting existing lines to add 3,000 megawatts to its present 7,000 megawatts wheeling capacity.
Honorable Minister, sir, the transmission expansion program has attracted significant interest from several donors. One of the donors which signifies interest is the World Bank. And this is with the sum of $486 million, which we just negotiated last month and closed last month.
He said the Transmission Rehabilitation and Expansion Plan, TREP, of the federal government seeks to stabilize, expand, and provide the needed flexibility to the distribution companies for them to effectively supply power to their customers.
Honorable Minister, it is necessary to bring to your attention, as we commission many transformers in TCN, that we have discovered there are several transformer capacities all over the country that we are constrained by transmission lines limitation. TCN, with your support, Honorable Minister, intend to embark on massive reconducting of transmission lines this year. This is expected to significantly increase our wheeling capacity, and we feel that between 2,000 and 3,000 megawatts can be added through this process, that is reconducting of our lines. TCN is already in discussion with the World Bank to use the balance in the native to procure the conductors. We wish to thank you, Honorable Minister, for the leadership you have provided, especially in managing the recent instability caused by the gas shortage to our power plants in the Lagos axis. The challenge has also exposed some weaknesses in the grid, which we intend to tackle and resolve. We wish to assure the Honorable Minister that TCN will continue to work hard to support government policy in implementing the agreed incremental power.
Mohammed, who addressed the dignitaries, including the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, says
Transmission expansion program also, which is supported, also included strategies for completing existing projects, either through in-house capacity or through fast-tracking existing contracts. Through this process, several transformers and substations will be completed in the first quarter of this year.
As part of efforts to make meters more accessible to electricity customers, the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, says the federal government will involve more Nigerians in manufacturing the devices. That story is up next.
The minister, who inspected the National Meter Test Station in Oshodi, Lagos, last Thursday, maintains that metering is a big issue and government hopes to address it speedily this year with a regulation that will open up the business to many more Nigerians. The minister had earlier reiterated these commitments at the recent power sector meeting in Lafia, Nasarawa State.
This year, I also hope that we will be able to work harder to increase our people's access to meters and reduce the incidence of estimated billing as NEC concludes the meter regulations that will open up the meter supply and installation business. In the course of today's meeting, hopefully we will hear a word or two from NEC about where we are with regard to that.
He says that this would reduce the pressure on electricity distribution companies on meter supply. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC, regulates the power sector. It is currently working on a regulation that will involve more participants in the metering value chain. The draft metering regulation was publicized by the Commission for input from stakeholders in December. The document shows that there will be a new entrant called the Meter Asset Providers, licensed by NEC to operate for 15 years in the first instance. Fashola said the government will address metering more vigorously this year with regulations which will open up business in metering to more investors. The minister says Nigeria's meter journey from 1950 showed that consumers depend on meters from foreign countries. Adding that now, the nation is beginning to see meters from local manufacturers like Mojek and Moman, which he said is a good development. He says the National Meter Test Station, a facility of the Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, NEMSA, is built to test the accuracy of meters before installation. The Managing Director of NEMSA and Chief Electrical Inspector of the Federation, Engineer Peter Eweso, in his address said all meters being installed by the DISCOs passed through its testing stations before they were deployed for installation. Metering, experts have said, will help electricity customers to accurately capture their energy usage so they can pay for what they consume, while it will reduce the many complaints of high estimated billing of customers. The DISCOs will guarantee more revenue from vending customers as energy becomes measured. This will also give them more income to pay the energy transmitted by the Transmission Company of Nigeria from the generation companies to solve the present liquidity crisis in the sector.
A look now at more reports encapsulated in our Power Flash. It's time now for a special interview session with the chairman, Nigeria Electricity Consumers Advocacy Network, NECAN, Chief Tomi Akibogun, on the need to utilize the stranded 2,000 megawatts power for the manufacturing sector's development.
So I think the minister's action is very, very good, and we must support it by all means. We all support it. It's a positive development. If they don't install meters, they don't need to collect, they will still collect money from customers, and they don't need to pay anybody. Do you understand? So what they are doing is deliberate. They are not taking on the electricity, because if they don't supply us the electricity, they are collecting money from us, the customers, and they are not paying anybody. So they started. So I think it is time, because the period that they were given to install due enumeration and install meters to all customers, all their customers are passed. For each time, the ministry keep on extending the period for them to catch up. They said, okay, cap me, whereby we can even introduce that we customers can pay for our meters. We are ready to pay for our meters. Most of us are ready to pay. The city meter is about 89,000 naira. Everybody building a house can install that. We want whatever new metering system to incorporate existing one, and based on discounts, the person managing the zone will be paid a discount of whatever revenue they collect. You understand? And it's monitored within the zone by the DSTV. That's all. It will make everything simple.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye.
A break beckons on the program. We will be back in a moment.
We are very impressed with Transmission Company of Nigeria, and we know that you are facing a lot of challenges now, especially budgetary challenges, and everything that we are trying to do now is to see how we can, from the legislative side, ensure that monies are released on time to you, because I think that's one of the biggest problems now, to be able to have the funds to do what you're supposed to do.
So let's hear what your comments and views are, shall we? You're welcome to the feedback segment.
My name is Peter and I live in Lugbe. About concerning the lights, the government for now, they are improving. So like last year, January to October, the light is poor. But from October to December, as in the governments, they are trying, they are really improving. So for me, I'll give the government power, as in concerning the power supply, 70%.
Like the plaza I'm working, we hardly have power supply. So most especially what we use there is our generator. So you understand? So I don't really know what is going on in this, especially this Kade state. So I don't really know what is going on. But other places like Warren Pass them or Taco, they normally have light. But at least to live like 5 hours for us in Kade State is a problem. Light in Life Camp where I stay, there's light. At least we have about 8 hours in a day. So I can say that there's stable light in Life Camp. So but where I'm working, I can't say about that.
We are all pleading that government should put more effort and improvement towards the light, because we students, we need the lights.
And this is where the curtain falls on this edition of Power Wheel. We thank you for your views as we solicit for more in order to get us on the path to successfully wield power. You can send us your views and comments via powerwheelhotline@gmail.com. We're making strides and we can do better. Until we bring you another edition of the program, I am Omelogo Nadi. Bye for now.